12 drivers, 10 races, 1 champion.
2 races to go in the chase, and this championship is very much up for grabs. Martin on the move. Mark Martin getting better and better each and every lap.
You can see how hard Jimmie Johnson is driving the car. He's getting aggressive.
Jimmie Johnson getting closer and closer to going to Homestead and making NASCAR history.
Yes, 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 yes! Save me some of that champagne, boys.
The chase continues.
Champions are those that respond to the pressure and rise to the challenge. And the challenge for Jimmie Johnson came a week before Phoenix here at Texas. On lap 3, contact. They were crowded coming off turn 2, and Jimmy's car would slide all the way across and slam the inside wall. His damaged Chevrolet would go back to the garage for repairs, and he would finish in 38th position, losing 111 points. They said they had to come here for the finale. It was important to get a good starting spot. And on Friday afternoon, Jimmie Johnson put his Chevrolet on the pole.
Yeah, baby. Yes, 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 yes. P1. Told you. I love you. 3104. Get you some of that. What, kiss you on the lips? No, you're not. That's a nice threat, but we've agreed to not say that stuff anymore, remember? Oh, that's right.
You don't think this bunch loves their driver? Chemistry, camaraderie, you call it what it is. Jimmie Johnson is the man, picking up his 4th pole of the year, and now it is set for Sunday. As our championship points contenders, Jimmie Johnson and Mark Martin will start 1st and 4th. You see Jeff Gordon starting back in 20th position. Let's go down to Dave Burns.
And Doc, this is, we're in the middle of the second practice of the day. The first one went from 1:30 to about 2:15. Jimmie Johnson was 3rd on the speed charts during that practice, but the car was a little hard to handle into the corner and off the corner. It was too loose. So they decided to work on that, and they did get it tight in the center of the corner. Now, in this session, Jimmie radioed into his crew early on. It's comfortable, but I don't think it's fast, and I can feel that. And his times show that. He's been in the 30s, the 50s, and the 80s. He is out of the car for the first time during this practice. They are going to work to try to make this 48 car faster for tomorrow's race. Vince Welch.
Well, Mark Martin was fastest in that earlier practice session today, and he's currently 3rd on the speed chart. The big question for Alan Gustafson, the crew chief for Mark Martin, is this. Can he get the race car to work on the top of the track to where it makes Mark feel comfortable? Because Mark Martin is definitely more comfortable on the bottom. Can they run the bottom all the time and still be competitive? The top's thought to have more speed, but Mark definitely prefers the bottom. So in this practice, they're working on trying to find that balance between the bottom of the track and the top of the track, the front end of the car and the back end of the car. It's been real loose so far. Doc?
The quest for speed continues down in the garage area. Hello, everyone. Along with Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie, I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. Happy hour, the final happy hour of the 2009 season. Jimmie Johnson implied that coming here for championship weekend, there would be 3 separate days, 3 separate missions. Well, mission accomplished yesterday in qualifying. He's on the pole. But what about happy hour, guys? What's the agenda? And then specifically, how many laps does he want to put on an engine he's got to run for 400 miles here tomorrow?
Well, he won't waste any laps on that engine now, that's for sure, but they want to get out here and make that car as fast as they can. They want to try to get it to handle well and be fast, because they can, with a fast race car, they can kind of decide what they do with that. They can either run up front and stay out of trouble if it feels comfortable up there, or they can lay back in the back and maybe stay out of some trouble. So the main thing is, if you've got a fast car, you can dictate that. If you don't, you can find yourself in a compromising position tomorrow.
Yeah, and they talked about, Dave Burns just reported that they had the car too comfortable probably. That's not Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus style. They want this car to where Jimmie really has to wheel it. That allows him to drive the car and put it in the position that he wants to. That's the way they want to attack this race. So they're going to have to free that up. Seen these guys work on a lot of things. First practice session, saw a lot of guys working on something a little different here. They have a new way of entering pit road tomorrow during the race. They used to have to use the access road coming in. Now they can come right off the racetrack, and a lot of guys were taking the time to find out just how far they could take that limit before they had to get slowed down.
We showed you Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin, but the third man in the point standings is the 24 car of Jeff Gordon. We talk about making history. How about the first 1-2-3 sweep, if they can pull it off, for Hendrick Motorsports? Gordon right now does not have a chance at the championship. Would love to finish the year by taking that car to victory lane. And the guy who wants to break up the Hendrick trifecta at the top of the points would be the guy in the 2 car. There he is, Kurt Busch, driving the car they nicknamed Patriot after he won with it at Texas in its debut. This car, again, very, very good here all weekend. Now, you saw Juan Pablo Montoya go by a moment ago, and he certainly has had Montoya lives here in South Florida, and he's had his issues throughout the weekend. In fact, his problems began here yesterday.
You can see here, as he got into turn 3, got back in the throttle, thing got away from him as he got on the brakes trying to slow it down. He spins out but doesn't hit anything. Very fortunate there.
Yeah, you see blowing the tires out right here, but it didn't harm the car at all. As a matter of fact, went to the garage, put a new set of tires on, and came back out, went to the top of the sheet.
Now, earlier in this practice session, he had another issue.
Well, that's just we're talking about a wide entry into the corner. That's about as far as you can take it. And he got in just a little bit hard being that far up there. So you can see him working on the car here now.
Let's get an update from the garage. Dave.
And Doc, I talked with Tony Glover, team manager for Juan Pablo Montoya's team, and he said, you know, it was really just a scrape. In fact, if this had happened during the race, we wouldn't have even pitted.
Yeah, this is an anniversary of sorts for Juan Pablo Montoya. It was actually 3 years ago this weekend that he made his very first start in a NASCAR Sprint Cup car.
Yeah, how far has he come in that amount of time? Man, he's just become a contender, seems like week in and week out, to win these races.
Talk about dialing these cars in. Here's the 5 car of Mark Martin. There was a practice session, folks, about an hour and a half ago, and Mark Martin was at the top of the speed charts in that session. And right now in this one, he's being shown 3rd.
Mark will always keep working on his car, trying to make it better, especially at a racetrack where you don't have a lot of grip like this one, and where the grip goes away quickly. He will change a lot of things on his car to try to get the feel he's looking for, and he's never satisfied.
Look at the visor there on the 5 car. And the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson, back out on the racetrack trying to get this car dialed in. And it's not about comfort, it's about being competitive here, as you heard DJ say. They're going to get Jimmy as competitive as he can get so he can basically race and be as aggressive as he wants to be here on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this racetrack in itself, even with the progressive banking that it has, is a real challenge. There's not a lot of grip out there. I don't know what it is about the asphalt down here in South Florida, but every configuration that this racetrack's ever had, after about the first race there, the grip has gone away, and these guys are really searching for some of that. So they're utilizing the most banking, which is up there close to the wall, to see if that can help with their grip level. But these guys really have a job ahead of them in driving the cars here. These cars are, again, difficult to drive in themselves, and you put no grip out there as far as mechanical grip, makes it even more difficult.
And again, the final third of this race on Sunday will be run after dark. They do have lights. That's the good news, so it'll make it a little bit easier. But the track will change significantly here as it cools down. Right now in happy hour, how about Jeff Burton, who had that incredible run at Phoenix from 36 to 2nd? He is the fastest car, and Kevin Harvick second. So 2 RCR cars, 1-2 in happy hour.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Happy Hour, brought to you by Windows 7, your PC simplified.
Homestead-Miami Speedway, final happy hour of the season. These guys trying to dial their cars in for the season finale here. Coming your way at 2:30 Eastern time on ABC on Sunday. 1.5 mile racetrack, and Jeff Gordon, I was in the garage area a moment ago, back out on the track. Jeff has never won at this racetrack. In fact, Hendrick Motorsports has never had a victory. This is the only racetrack that Hendrick has never had a cup car go to victory lane.
Really strange that you think about the dominance they've had, especially since the new cars come along, that they wouldn't have had an opportunity to get a win here. See about 9,100 RPMs going down into turn 1. Just kind of having to ease back into the throttle.
having to work it all the way off the corner.
You know what I found fascinating as you watch this telemetry is that most of the drivers say you just barely touch the brake, and then you let off and then jump back in that throttle.
Yeah, you're not going to use a lot of brake here because you have to roll out of the throttle so early because you drive down and you don't pick up enough banking on the entrance to the corner. So you have to regulate that speed. You want to pick up the throttle sooner.
Here's the 99 car who won this race a year ago. In fact, it was the last time that Carl Edwards went to victory lane, and we'll be riding along with Carl as he is our in-race reporter for the race here tomorrow. If you want to ask Carl a question, log on to ESPN.com, search Ask the Driver, and maybe have your question answered by Cousin Carl here on Sunday. Talk about a team that really wants to try to rebound from a frustrating year. This 99 bunch is that.
Now look at this shot right here. You see all that tape on the inside of the windshield? That's so they can pull that tape. Now, Carl will be able to take that tape and pull off a piece at a time as that sun goes down, and it's not a factor. But when this race starts, that sun's going to be in their face, especially come down this front straightaway.
Now, earlier in the day, we were walking around. We're following the guys in the 48 team. And when you win championships, you got to be all about the details, as Andy Petrie would say. Watch Chad Knaus here walking down pit road.
Yeah, he's just deciding which pit stall that he wants to pick. He gets the first pick by being on the pole. So he's checking it out. He's looking behind the pit wall where all the equipment will be. He's actually walking off. Now, you see him here walking off the pit stall itself to see the length of it, just to make sure that the length is what it's advertised and make sure that you got enough room in there. So he's making all these notes. He leaves nothing, no detail undone.
Now, what's happening here? What's that on the steering column there, Andy?
Okay, that's they put that on there when they're doing their setup, just to hold the steering wheel straight. They put a pin in that. That way Jimmy can get in and out of the car with that on there, and they don't have to take the steering wheel off. Let's go down to our Craftsman Tech Garage, and Tim Brewer can explain a little more of that.
Thanks, Andy. What we used to have a device that actually held the steering wheel in place, but like Andy says, it's hard to get in and out of the car. But you basically take the hub off, put the pin in place. But what they're trying to do, they're trying to align the front end, getting the wheel alignment perfectly straight. You can see right here with our digital turn plates that when the guys are actually measuring the caster in the car, they're measuring the angle of the spindle. But when they come back and want to set the toe in, they'll register that pin inside the car. Coming out here, they know that that steering wheel is going to be set in a precise place where Jimmy wants it. A lot easier to work with a toe. Dave?
Hey, Tim, down in the 48 garage, they're making some more changes to Jimmy's car. That last run was not good. The time's not fast for Jimmy. And in fact, Chad said, I think we should come in and work on it. They're trying hard. Jimmy was running high line, low line, looking for where there might be speed for the car. But in the current configuration, it just wasn't there. So they came in, changed some more parts. And once again, they'll go back out and give us some more. Doc?
Being very deliberate, thank you, Dave, with their setup and trying to get the car just precise for Jimmy Johnson. There in the garage, still a number of cars out on the track trying to dial it in. And later today, this guy right here, when he rolls off the starting grid, will be crowned the NASCAR Nationwide Series champion for 2009. What a year it has been for this guy, for Kyle Busch. 8 wins in the Nationwide Series.
And he's still got one more opportunity to get another one, and he'll be doing that this afternoon.
Yeah, just broke.
Going for it.
Yeah, all kinds of records this year in that series. Just amazing. He's run a lot of races in the 3 series, the trucks, the Nationwide cars, and the Cup. But just had an amazing year. And here's our fastest guy in this happy hour, Jeff Burton there on the high side.
Another brand new car for Richard Childress Racing. Burton, we talked about making that run at Phoenix, finishing second last week at Phoenix. And just Burton, they've really turned this whole program around. We talked about them run at Phoenix. How about finishing 9th at Texas, all the way from 42nd in a backup car and a top 5 at Talladega.
I'll tell you, it's really amazing how this Richard Childress Racing has turned their program. I mean, these new cars that they've been producing in their shops are just extremely fast, and look for them to have a good race tomorrow too. I mean, this is both of the RCR cars up top right now.
Behind him, the 9 car of Casey Kane, one of our chase contenders. This will be the last time Casey will be in a Dodge, because next year this team moving over to Ford full-time with the merger with Yates Racing. We mentioned this is the last race of the year and the last chance to turn your year around. Here's a guy here that's gotten better and better during the race, although the finishes don't reflect it. Dale Earnhardt Jr. still looking for that first visit to victory lane this year.
Yeah, they've just had all kinds of things to happen to them as they've tried to kind of turn the corner with their program. You know, when you're sitting there part of an organization that sitting first, second, third in the points, you start thinking, you know, what can I do to be better? And they have gotten better, but they need a little good fortune on their side because they found a lot of different things, whether it's an accident taking them out or running out of fuel like they did at Texas to keep them from having a good finish. So just a lot of things. They would really like to finish this season on a high note tomorrow night.
His teammate on the racetrack, Whoa, Junior a little bit sideways, gathers it back in. His teammate Mark Martin on the racetrack just trying to get this car a little bit faster every time. Vince.
Well, and you saw Mark running up around the top, been searching around whether the car works good on the bottom. They've got a pretty comfortable feeling on the bottom, but definitely still a little too loose for Mark's liking up top. But he made an interesting comment just a few moments ago, guys. He said, I think I'm going to just back it down and try to be a little more patient. Every time I seem like I'm trying too hard, I overdrive the car, and that makes the looseness even worse. I'm gonna slow down and try to be a little more patient. He said, I think that's going to make us better speed. Guys, you can understand that's where the veteran leadership and experience of Mark Martin starts to pay off, right?
Yeah, sometimes you have to let the car do some of the work. If you try to do too much of it, you can aggravate a problem that you may be having and really hurt yourself. So especially a track where the grip level is fairly low like we see here and deteriorates over time, that patience usually pays off.
Yeah, and they're talking about Mark Martin wanting to run up on the top. Mark Martin loves the bottom of the racetrack. He likes the shortest way around. He tries to make his car work there. If he ends up having to go to the top, you can do that usually with a car that you've worked on to make it go around the bottom. If you go just running around the top, very seldom will you have a car that when it comes time, probably tomorrow night, as this place cools down and gets some more grip, I think most of them are going to be around the bottom. That's why Mark Martin's working so hard on getting his car to work right around the bottom here in the corners.
Mark Martin's goal is to lead every lap and win the race. His mission, he somehow has to overcome a 108-point deficit, and he's done it 9 times in his career, including at Texas and, oh my, back at Homestead in 2005 when Jimmy Johnson finished 40th. It is a championship weekend here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. We will indeed crown a champion in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. That's coming up next here. The Ford 300 at Homestead-Miami. Live coverage on ESPN2 beginning with NASCAR Countdown. And then on Sunday, we'll begin the day with SportsCenter coverage presented by AutoZone here at the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championships, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That is on ESPN. Some special inside features looking at some of the drivers in the series. And, of course, over on ABC, 2:30 Eastern Time live, flag-to-flag coverage of the Ford 400 at Homestead-Miami, the season finale, as we see history being made by one of 2 possible drivers. We will set the stage on Sunday, NASCAR Now, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and wrap up the entire weekend at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. This driver right here, Joey Logano, should be crowned Rookie of the Year here after his performance tomorrow. He right now leads the rookie standings by 36 points over Scott Speed and Max Pappas. Logano, of course, has already won a race this year up at New Hampshire in June at the age of 19 years, 1 month, and 4 days. And tomorrow, we mentioned that SportsCenter special. We will be sitting down with young Joey Logano, looking at where he came from and talking to mom and dad about this young man's heroes growing up and his aspirations to be exactly where he is among the elite drivers in NASCAR's Sprint Cup. All of this at the age of 19.
Well, he's got a lot of talent, and he's shown that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this series years to come. I think he's had an outstanding season, stepping into some big shoes there. And Tony Stewart left this race.
He had instant success in the Nationwide Series. I mean, almost winning immediately. He's not had that kind of success in the Cup Series yet, although he does have a win earlier this year at New Hampshire. But he has really improved, and I expect to see this team really contending for wins next year.
What a career this young man had. 15, 16, 17 years old, winning the first time he was in the ARCA car in the Camping World East and West Series. You mentioned he didn't win. It took him 3 whole races to win in the Nationwide Series, becoming the youngest winner there at Kentucky. And now he holds the record as the youngest winner ever in a NASCAR Sprint Cup car this year. We talk about impressive talent in the rookie ranks. A little bit different route for this guy, who will start on the outside front row for the 2nd year in a row. Great qualifying effort by Scott Speed.
Well, he did. He laid a lap down yesterday in qualifying. He went out late. The track conditions kind of favored the later draws, and he laid one down. Almost stole that pole away from Jimmy Johnson.
Great job by Jimmy Elledge and all the crew down there, the Red Bull crew, getting this car dialed in. Of course, Scott Speed coming over from the Formula One ranks to coming back. Successful in ARCA and the Truck Series, and now getting into the Cup car full time.
Yeah, you can see right up in front of him is the guy that he'll be starting beside. We're talking about Jimmy Johnson there, and Scott Speed be on the front row. And Scott Speed, as excited as he is about being up there, he said some things yesterday that makes you know that he totally understands the situation and the consequences of any mistakes or anything. So he's not going to do anything like that at the start of this race. He knows that Jimmy Johnson's going for history, and he doesn't want to affect the championship battle by doing something crazy. He's going to race hard. He's just not going to put anybody in any difficult position.
I loved it when they asked him after qualifying, how are you going to handle starting beside Jimmy Johnson, the possible champion and history maker here on Sunday? And he started shaking, looked in the camera and said, carefully. 2 men, 1 race, and 1 day chasing history in NASCAR. Could Jimmy Johnson become the first driver in the 61-year history to win 4 consecutive NASCAR Sprint Cup titles? Gotta wonder what he's thinking about right now.
After 35 weeks, the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series reaches the finish line in Miami. Jimmy Johnson and the 48 team can seal the deal with an historic 4th straight title. But another Texas moment could allow Mark Martin to spoil the party. NASCAR crowns a champion in the Ford 400 tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. on ABC.
And we invite you to join us for our Sports Center special, by the way, starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday. That's on ESPN, a special inside look at the Hendrick Super Team, the relationships between Jimmy and Chad, and, of course, a lot of up-close and personal looks at some of the drivers away from the racetrack. Here are the 10-lap averages for happy hour. We told you Jimmy Johnson was fastest for 1 lap on Friday in qualifying, but on average, pretty good evidence there that Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick, the RCR guys, are pretty strong. You saw Martin Truex there in speed, and how about a little swapping going on next year? Jamie McMurray was announced to be moving over to that 1 car in 2010.
Yeah, they made it official this week. He'll be going back to Earnhardt Ganassi, and he'll be in that number 1 car.
Yeah, with the Bass Pro Shop sponsorship. So Jimmy's excited about that opportunity that he has. He enjoyed his time that he was there. It was just time for him to move on and try something else. Now he's going back, and here's a guy that's been fast here all weekend, Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, he wore him out in the trucks last night.
Congratulations to Kevin. He was driving in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race, where his driver in his truck that he owns, Ron Hornaday, had captured the championship the week before at Phoenix.
Yeah, that captured the driver's part of it. They still had to race pretty hard last night for the owner's side of it, and they did come away with that part of it too. So big weekend, a big year for Kevin Harvick.
And the 2 car, we talked about Kurt Busch, who was a 2-time pole sitter and previous winner here at Homestead. Dave.
And, Doc, they've been improving this car throughout the practice. You see Kurt running that extreme high line. He had no grip in and off on the first part of that practice, and the crew told me that they have improved that. This run in particular, which began on lap 26 of his practice session here, we're on brand new tires, and so that's where he's been running this run. And usually when you put on brand new tires, I guess you're pretty close because you're not going to burn them off on a setup that's not working.
Yeah, and he did. He moved up on the practice board here too, Dave. He's one of the few cars that has improved since the start of this practice. His fastest lap was on his lap 27.
And you know what impresses? Sorry, Andy. You know what impresses me most about this team is the fact that right before the chase began, it was announced that Pat Tryson would be leaving as a crew chief and be a lame duck crew chief. Nothing lame about that duck. I mean, they really, really have kept their foot on the gas and done a phenomenal job. But the last time these two will be together will be here tomorrow when the checkered flag waves. They'll go their separate ways.
And this will be his new teammate next year, Kurt Busch. This will be Brad Keselowski in this 12 car. Getting a head start on next year for these last few races. See, he's working that wheel. Man, look at that thing.
And he will not be eligible to run for Rookie of the Year because he's already run too many races. He can only run 7, and he's already run 15. So that will not put him in the rookie points. Talked to Tim Cindric at Penske Racing in the garage area about an hour ago. He said they are so excited about having this young man be a part of their operation with Sam Hornish and Kurt Busch. He said this young man here, they believe, is a wheel man.
Yeah, I do too. I think they're very lucky to have Keselowski in their camp. You know, Hendrick had him over there basically with Junior in the Nationwide Series, and it looked to be Brad Keselowski that would go in the 5 car. But with Mark Martin's resurgence, I guess there's just no place for Brad Keselowski to go. But this is a great organization and a really good seat for Brad, and I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, I think Brad could see that Mark kind of like that seat over there in the 5 car.
Giving it up.
Hang out for a while. Brad needed to move on. You can see really working the wheel. We're going to say that a lot tomorrow, watching these guys really have to work the wheel to get these cars to go where they want. See some of the seams in here that they get into, and that'll make the car move around quite a bit on this racetrack. So you have to really be careful. There's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration and try to dodge and work around.
Here's the 44 car of A.J. Allmendinger. You talk about drivers that are really stepping up here in the final few races. A.J. having a great run at Phoenix, finishing 13th. He was the highest finishing Ford. Yes, this car, the Ford, the only Ford that Richard Petty Motorsports has built for open competition, outran all the Roush Fenway cars last week at Phoenix.
Yeah, this is their chassis design and everything that they're running. So it might be something that Roush and them will have to look into, because AJ certainly is. His car's been very good the last couple of weeks. And again, this is one that they built at Richard Petty Motorsports.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. headed back to the garage area. Make that turn to the garage. And a rule change this week, DJ, affecting how cars are going to get on the pit road.
Yeah, as always, from the time this racetrack was built, it had an access road that you use coming in as you entered at turn 3. You had to use that to come to the pits, because before there just wasn't any room to get off the racetrack. You were actually in the racing groove the majority of the time. Now they're going to be allowed to stay on the racetrack, as you see the white line there, and as they come off of turn 4. So a lot of the drivers have been practicing, because this is something that they haven't been accustomed to doing. So I see that Dale Jr. tried this a few minutes ago, Andy.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, this is not an easy pit road to get on. Man, you can see Junior just locking up that left front tire to try to get down to pit road speed by that commitment line.
Yeah, have to get another set of tires on that boy, won't they?
Yeah, he used that one up.
And you're going from 175, 185 miles an hour coming off that corner down to 45 to get to that yellow line there, or else you're going to get a speeding penalty.
Yeah, and it's really hard to see. So that's why a lot of the drivers, saw a number of them in the first session trying, as they got to the end of a set of tires, that when they were going to put on new tires, they really started working on that.
Here's a 2-time winner at Homestead-Miami Speedway, Tony Stewart. And Tony, the 2-time champion, will start 5th here on Sunday. And he'll be a part of our Sports Center special at 1 o'clock Sunday on ESPN. We'll be able to go back and visit with Tony away from the racetrack, go back to his Indiana home, and get a special behind-the-scenes look at Tony. And Tony, very open and honest about his thoughts about his career, where he started, where he was for a while, and where he is now as an owner-driver. Just a couple of minutes to go in this session. What's going on with Mark Martin, Vince?
Well, Mark says he's still having to slide it a little with the back end into turn 1 and into turn 3, but it's about as snug as he wants it to be in the center, so he's going to live with it, especially considering he feels like he's got a pretty good drive off the corner. So all well for Mark Martin at this point. 3rd on the speed chart. They did come in, put a set of scuff tires on it, make a track bar adjustment, so they're still tweaking with it. But Mark Martin and crew chief Alan Gustafson pretty happy with what they've got right now. Doc?
Thank you, Vince. Just a couple minutes to go here, and the 2 championship contenders, Mark Martin and Jimmy Johnson, trying to get every ounce of these cars dialed in for what's going to happen here on Sunday. one of these guys is going to walk away having made NASCAR history. Will it become the first 50-year-old champion ever crowned by NASCAR? The man on the right, Mark Martin, or will Jimmie Johnson make it 4 years in a row? It's never been done in NASCAR history.
I like this shot where you can kind of compare the styles of the way they're driving the race car. Mark uses a familiar style we've seen with him where he moves that right hand over and kind of uses his elbow as part of the way he steers the car. And Jimmie has the steering wheel quite a ways away from him. It's a little different style than most drivers. I think that steering wheel with Jimmie is about as far away as you'll see anybody's steering wheel.
Yeah, and he's really working the wheel too. You can see how Mark's car seems to be a lot more comfortable in using that. But Jimmie's working his, and that's Jimmie's style. That's the way they get this car to drive. He's not quite as good right now, I don't think, as what he would like to be. But it's been pretty fast here the last part of this session.
These two guys chasing a championship and chasing history, and this guy, Jeff Burton, chasing a win. None of the RCR cars have gone to victory lane in 2009, and Jeff Burton, fastest in the session, would like to change that here tomorrow. Beautiful day here in South Florida to crown a champion. We're going to do that coming up next. The Ford 300 here at Homestead-Miami Speedway, NASCAR Nationwide Series action. And then tomorrow here, we're going to have coverage starting with our Sports Center special presented by AutoZone at the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship, 1 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN. And following that, you saw Mark Martin and this guy. Who's it going to be? Who makes history? Flag-to-flag coverage of the Ford 400 at Homestead-Miami, ABC, 2:30 Eastern time. And, of course, NASCAR now to set the stage Sunday morning and to wrap up the wild weekend at 10 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. Well, happy hour is over, guys. They're going to push them back to the garage area. What happens now with these cars that are going to have to somehow determine the championship tomorrow?
I'll guarantee they're not going to leave anything unchecked. They're going to go through this car completely bumper to bumper. It was well prepared when they brought it here, but they're going to make a lot of checks. They've got to put a checklist on this thing, and I would look at it with a microscope if I needed to, just to make sure everything was done right. And I'm sure Chad has a good plan for these guys.
The pressure on these guys, the pressure on the driver and crew chief, but also on the guys that go over the wall. How about the engine tuners that know this is it's a one-engine rule, and DJ, you have that same engine in the car all weekend, and these guys have got to go over and look at every little opening in the engine to make sure that everything is perfect when that race starts on Sunday.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, is making sure that you get the spark plugs in there. I mean, that's one thing they'll be changing, and they'll look at that. It sounds simple, but it only takes a small mistake there. But all of these guys, they have to do their job, but that's what's got them there. They do their job better than anyone else. And as a driver, you are glad that you have guys like that working on your car.
Here are the speeds in happy hour, the top 10 speeds, and take a look. You see Mark Martin 3rd overall, and you see Jimmie Johnson down there 7th. Mark Martin knows he needs to win the race and lead the most laps to have any kind of shot at the title. These shots from high atop picturesque Homestead-Miami Speedway, courtesy of our good friends at Goodyear. New Fuel Max tires help you get there on less gas. Calculate your savings at GoodyearTires.com. 1.5 mile racetrack. We're going to have a championship weekend tomorrow. NASCAR Nationwide Series action coming up later today, I should say 4 o'clock Eastern time. Sports Center special presented by AutoZone on ESPN Sunday at 1 o'clock. And then live flag-to-flag coverage. NASCAR Sprint Cup history being made on ABC starting at 2:30 Eastern time. Guys, we have seen it time and again that a pit position that's picked on pit road can be critical and can really help determine the outcome of the race.
Oh, it's number one pit stall that you can choose. If you're the pole sitter, you get the first choice. So that's what Jimmie Johnson has chosen. That's this one. It's the last pit on pit road, and you have a free exit off, and it really helps to have that, that free exit. The line, the line they race to is right there in front of them. We saw earlier today, there's Chad Canals. He was walking off the pit stall, checking out all of the real estate here. He goes both sides of the wall. He's checking out everything, not leaving any detail undone. We even saw him walk off the pit stall right here, measure the length of it just to make sure that it's as long as it's supposed to be.
Wanted to know where those timing lines were, that they time you for speed on pit road, and be able to know where you race off how close they're going to be so he can tell his driver exactly what he's got to get done. Now, Mark Martin has picked a different position about halfway up pit road.
Yeah, this is also a good pit stall. He has an opening in front of him. It'll be the stall right there to the left of that opening in the wall, and so he'll have at least a little bit of room to go around the car that'll be pitted in front of him. So that's not a bad pit stall either.
No, but it'd be utmost important, especially in Jimmy Johnson's case, for his pit crew to make no mistakes and Jimmy to make no mistakes on pit road entering and leaving tomorrow to give themselves the best opportunity to win this championship.
Guys, you have both lived this championship scenario. DJ, you've won a title, and you've been 2 championship crew chiefs with Dale Earnhardt Sr. What's it like tonight for the driver and crew chief? How much sleep do you really get?
It's stressful, man. I'm just going to tell you right now, I came into the first championship that I won as a crew chief. We had even a larger lead than this, and it was still very, very stressful. I mean, you go through everything in your mind the night before, and everything that can go wrong, you'll imagine it going wrong for you on Sunday.
I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, you're not going to sleep much at all because you're sitting there thinking of all the things that could possibly happen. You're trying to keep those from happening, and that all of these other people think can't possibly happen to you. So it is very stressful. Not much sleep. They'll have plenty of time to sleep after this championship battle's over.
What we do know is that history will be made when the checkered flag waves here at Homestead-Miami Speedway on Sunday night. We invite you to join us for live flag-to-flag coverage at 2:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Well, right now, how about the NASCAR Nationwide Series coming up? It's Nationwide Championship version of Countdown. As we get set to go down to Alan Bestwick. Alan, why don't we get set to crown a Nationwide champion for 2009?